So I love omegaverse. I think it's one of the most complete and amazing genres of fiction that exist, because not only does it make great porn, because it does, it's a whole bunch of kinks just mashed into a single genre, and I think that's kind of beautiful. But also it works as a tool to see social dynamics and just cultural things, and for example, misogyny and the effects of patriarchy are can really be showcased through Omegaverse, and that this has been done before in this, um, the classic. Oh, what if instead of the patriarchy being centered around men, it was like a matriarchy? Even though matriarchy doesn't work like that, but like, what if the men were the oppressed genre? And you see how dystopic and just generally ridiculous those kinds of content are. And oh my god, I don't know. I think oh my god brings like a spice to it. And the point of this video is that I've always like omegaverse universes tend to be really conservative, like, you know what I mean? Okay, I'm going to give you context. I was reading a bitchin, not a bitchin, an alpha x alpha fic, okay? There's no omega, it's two alphas. And I was thinking, homosexuality in omegaverse settings has to be like so taboo. That has to be top 10 weirdest things ever. Because queerness is really weird in omegaverse, because the word is inherently queer. Like, men and men are always on each other, women and women, like, that's a thing, right? And sometimes like it goes beyond, like they don't have like the same concept. Well, it's different, it's tweaked. But when you see it, omegaverse is just gay by definition. But like it's still straight. Like, okay, hear me out. Obviously, an omegaverse couple, alpha omega, if both of them are considered male by the universe standards, okay, it's a queer couple by our standards, but they still make the baby, and alphas are still held by like gender norms that make sense to us. You know what I mean? I've seen some fics. This isn't fics. One of the most egregious, like one of the most heinous, really evil is like, heaviest, most gut-wrenching, heartbreaking, gutting fics I've ever read proposed this. So female is just like, the one that gets pregnant, the egg, right? That's like female. And male is the one that inseminates the egg. So in this fic, what the author was proposing was that it didn't matter that you were born like if you were born with a penis, that didn't matter. That, okay, you could be considered a guy, like you use he him pronouns, and you don't have like your like your brain is connected in a different way than a woman's is connected. You know what I mean? Because at the end of the day, that's what defines our gender, the way our brain connects things. So let's say you have a guy brain, okay? You think like a guy, but you are an omega. So what the author was proposing was that by this societal standard, you were technically female. So you were held by patriarchy standard thing. That fic was so egregious. Oh my god, I get the jibbies thinking about it. It was great. It was very good reading. The author very talented. I've read other of their works. Jesus, like they have a talent for horror. I'll say that. So I just think it's interesting because being trans just has a lot more connotation and just is different, you know? Because imagine you're trans, but like I don't know how would that work. Because okay, let's say you're an omega guy. Okay, you think like a guy. You're an omega. But you want to be an alpha. No, you don't want to be. You are an alpha, but you have omega bodily characteristics. That would be a trans alpha, right? But like, would that work the same with trans women, trans men, like queer folk? Like, let's say like an omega is born, but like they're a trans woman, or they're a trans man, and they're alphas, and let's say they change their first gender, like they transition on their first gender, but what about the second one? Like, what kind of what I'm thinking is that it's different being trans from like transgenderism would be different from the main genre gender and the second gender. I think that's how it would work. Maybe it's just a theory, like it doesn't exist. Also, homosexuality, I think it would be very frowned upon, which is funny because, you know, like omegaverse just like has to be very freebie wee with gender in some kind of form, because like it just really depends actually on how the author is building their universe. And also that's another reason why I think omegaverse is so beautiful, because every single iteration is different from each other. Like I've seen ones where omegas have female genitalia, I've seen ones where they don't, you know, the ass babies having a uterus in your anus. It works. There's like people have think about this. There's a way. Alright, you just have to be open about it. And yeah, no. Sometimes I would like if they would, you know, add a little pizzazz to it, because I'm like, damn, these damn omegas need to fight for their rights. Like, damn, what are you doing? Like, for example, submitting, like, oh, I'm being forced to submit by my instincts because this alpha is overruling my my conscious thoughts with his alpha voice, or like some kind of shit. And that just, for I don't know nothing about biology, but like that doesn't seem convenient from a survival standpoint. Like, why would you do that? Okay, omegaverse is written with a lot of misogyny if you look at it certain ways, but also it's really a good tool to study this. Okay, we can study this together. I've read senseless omegaverse all the time, like things that wouldn't, like societies like that wouldn't work. They would collapse within like the first 2 centuries of existence, or they would look, you know, be like us and just be in constant doom and despair. But like, you know, it's for fun, and you know, don't, yeah. But yeah, like queerness in an omegaverse setting is really interesting, and I think people should explore it more. Because like they are queer because they're two guys, but also they make a baby, and society is not frowned upon them because, you know, one is an omega and the other one is an alpha, and that's kind of what's expected. So wouldn't that make them just stray? Are you seeing what I'm saying? Obviously, straight omegaverse, like an omega woman and an alpha man. That's nothing burger. That does not work. I think it is sacrilege upon the whole the whole genre, and I think it should not be done because it just doesn't work. Straight omegaverse only works if the alpha is the woman, because it flips the script, and that's what people want to see. Like, we already work. Honestly, the real work is just omegaverse, but like way more fucked up and just so much more sadder. But like, why would we need straight omegaverse? That already happened. Like that. Why would a woman in heat? What is that, girl? What is that? Like, okay, give me two girls. Give me the alpha woman, omega man, or give me two guys. Or you know two gender queer, like that. I haven't seen that. That would be interesting. Like, let's shift things a bit. I don't know.